Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Guru Tusi Maharaj ki jai, Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter number 1. Questions by the sages. Text number 10. Prayena Alpayushaha Sabhya Prayena Alpayushaha Sabhya Asmin Yuge Janaha Asmin Yuge Janaha Mandaha Mannamatayo Mandaha Sumannamatayo Mandabhagya Upatrutaha Mandabhagya Upatrutaha Ayena Alpayushaha Sabhya Halo Asmin Yuge Janaha Mandaha Sumannamatayo Mandabhagya Upatrutaha Ayena Alpayushaha Sabhya Halo Asmin Yuge Janaha Mandaha Sumannamatayo Mandabhagya Upatrutaha Ayena Alpayushaha Sabhya Halo Asmin Yuge Janaha Mandaha Sumannamatayo Mandabhagya Prayena almost always Alpa meager Ayushaha duration of life Sabhya member of a learned society Hello in this age of Kali Bharat Asmin herein Yuge age Janaha the public Mandaha spacing Sumannamatayaha misguided Mandabhagyaha unlucky he and above Upatrutaha disturbed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace HG Rayarama Dasa. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Translation with repetition. O learned one, In this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Purport. The devotees of the Lord are always anxious for the spiritual improvement of the general public. When the sages of Naimisharanya analyzed the state of affairs of the people in this age of Kali, they foresaw that men would lead short lives. In Kali Yuga, the duration of life is shortened not so much because of insufficient food, but because of irregular habits. By keeping regular habits and eating simple food, any man can maintain his health. Overeating, over-sense gratification, over-dependence on another's mercy, and artificial standards of living sap the very vitality of human energy. Therefore, the duration of life is shortened. People of this age are also very lazy, not only materially, but in the matter of self-realization. The human life is especially meant for self-realization. That is to say, man should come to know what he is, what the world is, and what the supreme truth is. Human life is a means by which a living entity can end all the miseries of hard struggle for life in material existence, and by which he can return to Godhead, his eternal home. But due to a bad system of education, men have no desire for self-realization. Even if they come to know about it, they unfortunately become victims of misguided teachers. In this age, men are victims not only of different political creeds and parties, but also of many different types of self-gratificatory diversions, such as cinema, sports, gambling, clubs, Mandir libraries, bad association, smoking, drinking, cheating, pilfering, bickering, and so on. Their minds are always disturbed and full of anxieties due to so many different engagements. In this age, many unscrupulous men manufacture their own religious faith, which are not based on any revealed scriptures, and very often people who are addicted to sense gratification are attracted by such institutions. Consequently, in the name of religion, so many sinful acts are being carried on that the people in general have neither peace of mind nor health of body. The student, brahmachari, communities are no longer being maintained, and householders do not observe the rules and regulations of Grihastha ashrama. Consequently, the so-called Vanaprastha and sannyasis who come out of such Grihastha ashramas are easily deviated from the rigid path. In the Kali Yuga, the whole atmosphere is surcharged with faithlessness. Men are no longer interested in spiritual values. Material sense gratification is now the standard of civilization. For the maintenance of such material civilization, man has formed complex nations and communities, and there is constant strain of hot and cold wars between these different groups. It has become very difficult, therefore, to raise the spiritual standard due to present distorted values of human society. The sages of Naimisharanya are anxious to disentangle all fallen souls, and here they are seeking the remedy from Srila Sutta Goswami. Presents a Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So this is a very important verse, which is outlining the qualities of people in the age of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is known here as age of quarrel. Prabhupada, in the translation, Kalau is mentioning in the bracket quarrel. It's very special. Kali comes from the word Kalaha. Kalaha means quarrel. So quarrel not necessarily grossly, but anyhow we see that. We see the current situations. We see people often quarreling, getting into arguments, physically, verbally. In this purport also Prabhupada was mentioning hot and cold wars. Sometimes that may lead into a war kind of situation. Not just externally but also internally also there is quarrel within ourselves. Can anyone say how is that quarrel happening internally? There is a quarrel within one's own mind. Grossly there is always easy to understand that two people fighting with each other, quarreling. Sometimes we see the nature of a person is quarrelsome. Jagadelu, we say that. For every small thing, we tend to quarrel. That is a symptom of the influence of this age of Kali. But subtly also within ourselves there is always a quarrel within the mind. Isn't it? True or not? Suppose if we see some person whom you don't like, or with some person whom you are argued, you have a bitter taste of relationship with him. And when he comes in front of you or walks across, so what happens in our mind? Will we be feeling good? So all those bitter experiences come to mind, and internally there is a kind of agitation, quarrelsome tendencies. And next interaction with that person, what happens? Quarrel. So that is a symptom of the age of Kali Yuga, which is known by quarrel and hypocrisy. Hypocrisy means internally something else, but externally posing something else. Hypocrite, we say it. So the sages of the Naimisharanya, they are foreseeing these symptoms as being described here. We will try to understand them. In the beginning of age of Kali Yuga began when Lord Krishna disappeared from this earthly planet. Maharaj Yudhishthira and Bhimasena were able to perceive the symptoms of Kali at the time when Lord Krishna had disappeared from Dwaraka. He ended his earthly pastimes. So sitting in Hastinapura, Yudhishthira Maharaj could already sense these symptoms, that These symptoms have happened because Krishna is no more present in this earthly planet. But the sages of Naimisharanya, who assembled in a place called Naimisharanya, it's a forest, it is said that the sages go to the forest to take shelter of Vishnu. Harim ashrayat tad vanam gachet. So the sages headed by the Shaunakadi Rishi, they assembled in a forest called Naimisharanya, and it is said that the Naimisharanya is the centralmost part of the whole universe. पूरा विश्व का सेंट्रल पार्ट है. कौन सा जगह? नैमिषारण्य, जहाँ पे शौनकादि ऋषि वहाँ पे उपस्थित हुए और वहाँ पे उन्होंने ये प्रण लिया, ये विचार किया कि हजारों युग का, हजारों सालों तक जो बेनिफिट हो लोक कल्याण के लिए वे यज्ञ करना चाहते हैं. They assembled there to perform a sacrifice that can last for thousands of years. And this Naimisharanya is considered as a place which is very favorite to Lord Vishnu. Naimishe Animishe Kshetra. Naimisharanya is defined as Animishe Kshetra. Animishe means person one who doesn't close his eyelids. Animishe. Animesh, you would have heard this name. How many of you know the name or the meaning of this name? Animesh, very commonly used name here. So Animesha means a person who doesn't close his eyelids. We cannot remain without closing our eyelids. We have to keep blinking so that our eyelids can give a waxing solution to our eyes. But Lord Vishnu, he doesn't depend on these kind of arrangements for his vision. So that's why he is known as Animesha. He never closes his eyelids. But even sometimes we see him in the Yoga Nidra, but still it doesn't mean that he has closed his eyelids and he has gone to rest. That's why it is called as Yoga Nidra. Our Nidra is in the mode of ignorance. And when Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu, he supposedly, seemingly, he looks like he is taking rest or gone to rest, but that is known as Yoga Nidra. So this place is very dear to Lord Vishnu. So that's why the sages of the Naimisharanya chose Naimisharanya as a place where they can perform this 1,000-year sacrifice. And they established or nominated Sutta Goswami as the leader of this assembly, who would speak on the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the sacrifice that was actually intended to perform is the sacrifice of chanting and hearing. That would benefit for the humanity. So with that aim, so they questioned Sutta Goswami. Just in the previous verse, the sages of Naimisharanya began to speak, began to question Sutta Goswami. And the question was with respect to an inquiry as to know what is the ultimate good for everyone, for the common people in this world. Pumsam ekantatah shreyaha tannah samstitum arhasi. The sages petitioned, inquired Sutta Goswami to know what is the ultimate good, what is the ultimate good welfare activity for the living human. So if the question is to know, this is in the beginning of the Kali, and when the question is to know what is the ultimate good of the people living in this age, that means things are not happening good. Right? The question of knowing good comes when things are not rightly placed. That's what exactly the next verse we see. The sages are inquiring, are actually enumerating the condition of people in this age of Kali. What is that? Prayena alpa ayushah sabhya khalau asmin yuge janaha. Prayena means almost always. It's not that these symptoms are going to be there for time being and later on it will vanish and things will be better enough. No. Symptoms that are being enumerated here or foreseen by the sages of Naimisharanya is something which is almost going to be associated with people who are living in this age of Kali. What is that? Alpa Ayushah Sabhya. So they are addressing Sutta Goswami as Sabhya. Sabhya means one who is very learned. So the person to whom they are questioning is not an ordinary foolish person. He is the most learned person. So questions has to be placed to a right person. Sometimes we may identify the problem, but we may not know whom to place the question. That's what is the age of Kali is actually, that we'll try to understand. And Khalau asmin yuge janaha prayena alpa ayushaha. First symptom is alpa ayushaha, the span of life of people living is shortened. And mandaha, subandhamatayo. Mandaha means very lazy. Not just lazy, very lazy. And subandhamatayo is misguided. Someone who wants to be in a right track of pursuing spiritual life, he may be misguided. Mandabhagya. Mandabhagya means very unfortunate, unlucky. Mandabhagya, he upadrutaha. This word he is very important. Although looks very small word, but Prabhupada translates this word he as and above all. These problems are there. What is it? Alpayusha is there, misguided and unlucky, laziness. These qualities तो है ही, लेकिन इसके ऊपर और क्या है? Upadrutaha. Above all, everyone in this age who are living under the age of Kali is always disturbed. Their mind, there is no peace. Always under anxiety, always disturbed in mind. So these are the symptoms that the sages of Naimisharanya, they are able to foresee in the beginning of the age of Kali. That this is what the people in the age of Kali are going to be. And that's why they are very concerned. How can these people can be saved? What can be done so that ultimate good can come to these people in spite of going through all these qualities, all these experiences. So that is the a quality of a saintly person. A saintly person always thinks about how to perform welfare activity, highest welfare activity for others. Prahlad Maharaj says that as far as I am concerned, I am very happy. But when I see others engaged in the pursuit of sense gratification and suffering because of that, that causes me unhappiness. Prabhupada says, Para dukkha, para sukha, sukhi is a quality of a Vaishnava, and para dukkha, dukhi is also a quality of a Vaishnava. Seeing others in distress. What kind of distress? Not material distress. A distress which is created because of not taking up Krishna conscious life, not pursuing spiritual life, and suffering because of not taking up spiritual life. Because of that suffering, saintly persons, when they see the living entities are suffering like that, they are unhappy because of that. So, that is how we see the sages of Naimisharanya. They are very, very concerned. Look, this is the qualities of the age of people living. Practically we can see these qualities are there in us. We are not exempted or we are not relieved from these qualities. We can practically see this. People are short-lived, quarrelsome, hypocritic, laziness, no interest for spiritual life. So practically we can see all these symptoms in us. Although we see, but we don't know how to come out of it. That's the fun here. We are able to see everyone is quarrelsome here. People talk about short living, someone who dies at a young age. People start talking, how come he died at such a young age? He was so good, such a nice person, but how did he give up his body so early? Laziness, we know that we are lazy towards aspiring to progress in spiritual life. And we are lazy in material activities also. In Hindi we say kaam chor. Someone who doesn't want to work, he finds a way how not to work. How to avoid or postpone work. So that is the concern of the sages. Actually, it's a very interesting question. This is one of the 6 questions which the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, put forth to Sutta Goswami. And Prabhupada in his purport, he is very nicely elaborating on these points. We try to understand that, which is very important. And the purpose, somehow or other, we have assembled here, is actually to begin with a process how to defy these symptoms. Right? So we have all assembled here with one aim, with one common goal, that we want to advance in spiritual life. We want to stop practicing spiritual life. Or we want to formalize our determination of taking up spiritual practices in our life, through which we can actually defy these influences, these symptoms of Kali. When Maharaj Parikshit was ruling, the Kali tried to enter within the kingdom of Maharaj Parikshit. But because of the strict governance of Maharaj Parikshit, Kali could not find an opportunity to sneak in the kingdom of Parikshit. Of course, that was a plan of the Lord. Kali Yuga has to begin. Someone may question, if Kali Yuga is so sinful, so bad, then why Lord allowed Kali to enter? Because that is a cycle. Of the 4 ages, Kali Yuga is one of the age. It is a due process, it is a due cycle. It has to happen as a process of creation, maintenance and destruction. So although Parikshit Maharaj could defy the entry of Kali, Kali had to enter, but how could he defy the entry of Kali is because of strict following of Krishna conscious principles. That's what we can see here. Prabhupada is also enumerating these symptoms and we try to understand each symptom. So, first symptom here, which is narrated here, is Alpa Ayusha. People in the age of Kali Yuga, their span of life will be reduced. There is a span of life for every living entity within this creation, depending on which age the living entity is living. In the age of Kali Yuga, it is said that the average span of life of a human being is how many years? How many? 60. Someone is saying 60. Sorry? 100. So, in the age of Dwapara Yuga, the span of life, or an average span of life is 1000 years. In the Treta Yuga, it is 10,000. And in the Satya Yuga, which is considered to be the topmost of all the age of 4 cycle of yugas, people live for 1 lakh years. Although there is a year given in terms of calculation is given in terms of the years, actually it is based on the number of breathing cycles that the human being can do. A swasha and niswasa, inhaling and exhaling process. This breathing process, the breathing cycle, is a factor or parameter which determines the actual span of life, which can be quantified in terms of number of years as 100, 1000, 10,000. Sometimes we see sages in Himalaya, they live for thousands of years. Right, you have heard of it. How is that possible? Because they have conquered about with the process of yoga system, they are able to control upon the process of their breathing cycle. Suppose one inhale, one exhale, 1 cycle is gone. Yogis are able to control on this breathing process. By that process, they can able to apparently live for a long life. Suppose one is too much, very fastly inhaling and exhaling, that means he is consuming his life cycle. We see sometimes people are exerted into so much of unnecessary labor that they have to inhale, exhale very fast. Have you seen that? Suppose a sportsman, they have to always inhale and exhale very fast, at least when they are in that act of sporting. But nonetheless, it doesn't mean that by controlling the breathing process, one may try to increase the life cycle, but doesn't mean that goal of life is to increase the life of the longevity of the life, but goal of life is to become Krishna conscious. Goal of life is to search the real goal of human life. Here Prabhupada says in this purport, in the age of Kali Yuga, how does the span of life gets curtailed, gets reduced? How does it get shortened? It is not because of insufficient food. कि खाना ही नहीं मिला खाने के लिए, इसलिए उसका आयु खत्म हो गया जल्दी. It is very rare to see that someone has died because of no food. Some or other people find some food in some way. How nutritious, how not nutritious, that is a different question. Some other people will find the food. Prabhupada says that people have not shortened their life because of insufficient food. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Annat bhavanti bhutani. Living entities sustain on food grains. Arrangement is done. But if the habits of the people is irregular, that will shorten the lifespan of the human being. That's what Prabhupada is saying here. The duration of life is shortened not so much because of insufficient food, but because of irregular habits. Because of irregular habits. By keeping regular habits and eating simple food, any man can maintain his health. So because of irregular food habits, lifespan is reduced. And if the food habits are regular, good, simple eating, then one can maintain his good health. Now, Bhagavad Gita also says, what is this? Regular food habits. Regular habits. What is regular habits? Habit which is regulated when it is, or activities when it is performed with due regulation, then that activity is regulated. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yukta ahara viharasya, Yukta swapna avabhodasya, Yogo bhavati kada. This is described in 6th chapter in the Sankhya Yoga. Prabhupada very nicely narrates, he who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working and recreation can mitigate all pains by practicing the yoga system. Yukta ahara. Yukta means to regulate. Yukta ahara, regulate the eating. Vihara, all the activities. Swapna avabhodasya. Swapna means sleeping. Avabhodasya means wakeful activities. So, regulate means, should we eat little? Does it mean regulating the food means, food habits means tomorrow onwards eat less? Or sleep less? Knowing the tendency of the living entity to misunderstand, Krishna immediately has mentioned. Krishna says, There is no possibility of once becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. So regulation means not that, okay, now I heard a very nice lecture on regulating food habits and sleep. Tomorrow onwards I will sleep only for 2-3 hours. Of course, Goswamis, we know that they have reduced their eating and sleeping, but that is not a haphazard endeavor. Goal is to minimize and reduce. Prabhupada also sometimes says in elsewhere, no, we should minimize, almost nil. But that doesn't mean that tomorrow onwards you start practicing, I will not eat, I will eat less. What is required is regulation. Now what is this regulation in terms of food? Prabhupada says, by regular habits and eating simple food. What is simple food? Every day we are eating simple food. We are eating roti, dal, sabji. What more simple is required? We may think ourselves. We may question ourselves. Prabhupada in this purport says, as far as regulating the food is concerned, regulating the eating is concerned, a Krishna conscious person will not eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. So in that way he regulates his eating habits. Even sometimes people, there is a regulation in eating also, in terms of not just what you are eating, how you are eating, when you are eating, with what consciousness you are eating. Say, for example, breakfast generally supposed to be taken early, say 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. You will not take breakfast at 11 o'clock, or you will not take breakfast at 5 o'clock. That is not regulated eating habit. Generally lunch supposed to be taken around say 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. It has to be routine, it has to be regulated. So today I take lunch at 1 o'clock, tomorrow I don't take at all. He doesn't manufacture or concoct anything on his own. Today sometimes people talk about like intermittent fasting. So like that, we don't apply our own logic in terms of how to eat. And it is important for someone who is eating, he should know what he is eating. Sometimes when people serve to us, we ask, what is that? Kya hai usme? What is the ingredient in that? Who cooked that? How is it cooked? What are the contents in that? When is it cooked? Was it cooked yesterday and you are serving that now? So all these factors are very much important to understand the concept of simple eating. And above all, the consciousness of a person who is eating is also very much important. This will directly affect his health. Suppose someone is very angry, he is scolding someone, mentally he is very agitated and he is eating. While eating you keep watching mobile, keep browsing, keep surfing. Actually when we were in younger days, our parents used to scold us or chastise us when we were talking while eating. Remember? Your parents would have said that. Why is it? Because the mood while honoring food is very much important. So consciousness is equally important. So simple food not necessarily mean that you are eating very, very simple food. But how you are eating that what time you are eating that, with what consciousness you are consuming that is also equally important. So someone who is able to maintain a regulation in this, and Prabhupada specifically says that Krishna conscious person has nothing to do anything other than eating Krishna Prasadam. By simply eating Krishna Prasadam, one's habit of eating is automatically regulated. He does not have to do anything else separately. Because when you are supposed to honor Prasadam, that means that food is cooked with the consciousness that it is cooked for the Lord, and it is offered to the Lord with love and devotion. Ashnami prayatatmanaha. Then it is consumed. Then it is said that one process over all the sinful reactions. Yagnashishta asina santo muchyante sarvakil vishayhi. Simply by honoring Krishna Prasadam, all his sinful reactions are eradicated. You see how the habit of eating, in terms of eating simple food, is so much simplified. Today, in the age of Kali, people are so unfortunate. Food is there, but they don't have time to eat. They don't get right food to eat. There is a concept of frozen food, right? Because it is very difficult to cook. It is very difficult to cook for small quantity. Someone living, or 2-3 people living at home, cooking is very, very difficult job for them. So what they resort to? Frozen food. You buy and keep in deep fridge. Years together you keep and you keep consuming that. Food which is processed like this is not considered to be the mode of goodness. It is said that we are what we eat, right? So our nature, our quality, our behavior is based on what we eat. If our food is based on the mode of ignorance and passion, then we are influenced by the mode of ignorance and passion. And these symptoms which we see here are all characteristics of symptoms of passion and ignorance. And further, Prabhupada says, overeating, over sense gratification, over dependence on another's mercy and artificial standards of living sap the very vitality of human energy. Overeating. Overeating means you don't have hunger, but you want to eat, you will eat. Or your tongue is sending signal, oh very nice, very nice. More, I want more. So keep honoring that, keep tasting, keep feeding inside. Everyone has, there is a saying, no? Dane dane mein likha hai, khane wale ka naam. Right? So how much I can consume is already predetermined. So if I am overeating, that means I am eating something which is not meant for me. Right? And further, overeating leads to indigestion. Indigestion leads to, in Ayurveda there is something called undigested food will create kind of fermentation. The undigested food will ferment in our intestine and it will create toxins, which is called ama. Why is it happening? Because of overeating. See how nicely such a small things which we know, but so directly it is connected to our spiritual life. Not just material well-being, but also it is connected to spiritual well-being also. And over sense gratification person in Krishna consciousness, for him there is nothing to do with sense gratification. Yukta ahara viharasya. He has nothing to think anything beyond activities that are connected to Krishna consciousness. So he is automatically regulated in his actions. Over-dependence on another's mercy. How over-dependence on another's mercy will result to reduction in span of life? If you are depending on someone overtly, then what happens? It creates anxiety for whether he will take care of me or not. Especially in today's employment sector, we are over dependent on our employer. So that will create disturbance in mind, anxiety, and further that will reduce the span of life. So like this, people in the age of Kali, they are short-lived. Further, next, the sages of Naimisharanya point out Mandaha, very lazy. Lazy means not just, as I said, material activity, laziness in material activities, but also in spiritual life. People have no interest in spiritual activities. They are lazy to take up spiritual activities. And next, Prabhupada says that Mandaha means misguided. Prabhupada in his purport, he says, in this age, men are victims not only of different political creeds and parties, but also many different types of sense gratification diversions. There are so many diversions for people in this age of Kali who is wanting to pursue spiritual life. There are so many diversions for him. And Prabhupada has given a long list of diversions. Should I read again? Cinemas, sports, gambling, clubs, mundane libraries, bad association, smoking, drinking, cheating, pilfering, begging, and so on. So many diversions are there. And almost all these are part of our life. And that's why we are sumandamataya. We are misguided. And mandabhagya. We are unlucky. If at all we want to pursue spiritual life, there are so many different kinds of spiritual isms which will misdirect the spiritual practitioner. The ancient tradition is that there is one God and there is one Vedic authority system. And that Vedic knowledge is made available through a parampara system, through a Vedic authority system. But unfortunately, in the age of Kali, there are so many different versions of or different school of theology of that is propagated in this age of Kali, and people will get cheated. When I was traveling many years back, it was a long travel with the flight. So, a person sitting next to me, generally we try to speak and try to, it's an opportunity to speak and preach also. So when we were conversing, he was trying to share his spiritual experience where he was in connect with some XYZ spiritual organization. I don't want to quote the name. And unfortunately, after some point of practice of that spiritual organization, after some point of time, after some period of years, we found that the leader of the spiritual organization was arrested for some XYZ activities. So what happened to the followers? What happened to those sincere seekers, genuine seekers? Actually, he lost faith in all the spiritual practices. So he was saying to me, now I don't have any faith in any spiritual practices. Everyone is a fake. So even someone who wants to be genuinely wanting to practice spiritual life, there are so many isms, there are so many kind of spiritual, religious preachers. Not necessarily they will be speaking on the basis of Vedic authority. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says, any spiritual activity, if it is not based on Vedic authority system, it will simply create disturbance. So that is what is the state of affairs of people in the age of Kali. Very precarious. So what is the solution? We should be considering ourselves so fortunate, so much fortunate, that although we are going through this kind of unfortunate situation, we are in a dispositioned situation to not to take up spiritual life. Still, we all have assembled here with the intention of advancing in spiritual life. We are fortunate that we are able to establish, connect with a bona fide spiritual organization which directly stems from a bona fide parampara, a Vedic authority system which tries to give the knowledge as it is to the common man. Somehow or other, because of the causeless mercy of Acharya Srila Prabhupada, we are able to come together with a common purpose. हमारा सबका मकसद एक है कि कैसे हम कृष्ण भावनामृत में आगे तरक्की करें, कैसे हम आध्यात्मिक जीवन में आगे बढ़े. इस एक कॉमन पर्पस से हम सब यहाँ पे उपस्थित हैं. Irrespective of in what age we are there. We have some younger people here, we have some elderly people here, we have some middle-aged people here. Prahlad Maharaj says actually we are supposed to have taken this Bhagavata Dharma in a very young age of life. But what to do in the age of Kali? It is so difficult to practice because of so many reasons that is being put here. In whatever age we got the chance to take up, we should be taking it up. Whether someone is young, whether someone is old, everyone is a student in the process of pursuing spiritual life. No doubt we might have lost some age of ours. Had we had gotten this opportunity at a young age, we had more time to practice this. जब हम जवान में रहे, उसी टाइम अगर हम इस कृष्ण भावनामृत के संपर्क में आए हुए थे, तो हम बहुत अच्छे तरीके से हम आध्यात्मिक जीवन में आगे बढ़ सकते हैं. ऐसा हमारे में ऐसा विचार हो सकता है. Especially those who are taking up Krishna consciousness at a little elderly age. But if someone becomes serious, understanding that, look, I have lost so much of my life, At least now I should become serious. Once Prabhupada was asked that how much time it will take for someone to realize his spiritual position. Anyone remembers what Prabhupada says? Heard that snippet? Yes. 1 minute, next minute. Prabhupada says next minute. Khatvanga Muni was fighting on behalf of the demigods, and he was simply fighting and he did no other activity. He was fighting on behalf of the demigods as a commander. Before Kartikeya, the son of Kartikeya, the son of Lord Shiva, is actually the commander-in-chief of all the demigods. But before Kartikeya could take birth, Khatvanga Muni was actually commander-in-chief of demigods, and he was fighting on behalf of the demigods against the demons. So he was so engrossed in his fighting, and at one point he started inquiring, how much time is left for me now? So demigod said, you have very less time, 1 nimisha you have now. So immediately he left his all engagement and comes down and takes up Krishna conscious activities. So, what is important is, no doubt we would have lost most of the part of our life, but it is important to become serious. And the seriousness can be known by how much eagerness we were wanting to take up more and more Krishna conscious activities. Today we may be taking up or formalizing our commitment to chant, say 1 mala or 2 mala or 4 mala. But back of the mind we should know, we should somehow reach to the goal of chanting 16 rounds. Somehow or other adjust my life in a way that I can chant the 16 rounds every day. अपने व्यावहारिक जीवन को इस तरह से मैं एडजस्ट करूं कि एक दिन में 16 माला जपने के लिए तैयार रहूंगा। ये मन ही मन ये आशा रहना चाहिए, ये भावना रहना चाहिए। भले आज हम 1 माला जप करने के लिए या 4 माला जप करने के लिए 8 माला जपने के लिए हम एक प्रण ले रहे हैं। अपने आप को हम सब भाग्यशाली मानते हुए एक आध्यात्मिक जीवन में एक नया कदम हम लेके जा रहे हैं। वैष्णवों का, आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद जी का ये कृपा के बिना ये नहीं हो सकता है, क्योंकि आध्यात्मिक जीवन में अगर आगे बढ़ना है तो हमको एक सद्गुरु का बहुत आवश्यकता है। और खास करके इस कलयुग में जहाँ पे जैसे हमने यहाँ सुना कि एक प्रामाणिक गुरु मिलना बहुत मुश्किल है। मंदः सुमंद मतयो, we can consider ourselves among those who can be counted, उंगली में हम गिन सकते हैं। तो इसी समय को हम लेते हुए आध्यात्मिक जीवन में एक नया मोड़ लेते हुए एक तपस्या, एक प्रण, आध्यात्मिक जीवन में भी प्रण की जरूरत है। भौतिक जीवन में भी हम प्रण लेते हैं कि नहीं लेते हैं? लेते हैं कि नहीं लेते हैं? जब हम से फॉर एग्जाम्पल जन्म लेते हैं तब हम प्रण लेते हैं। क्या प्रण लेते हैं जन्म के समय? एक्चुअली भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर कहते हैं, माँ के कोख में जो दुर्दशा है वो देखने के बाद, उसका झलक देखने के बाद, उसका अनुभव करने के बाद, महीने 8 महीने 10 महीने अनुभव करने के बाद ये प्रण लेता है, हे भगवान ये मेरा आखिरी जन्म है, अभी मुझे दूसरा जन्म नहीं लेना है। क्योंकि माँ के कोख में वो दुर्दशा का अनुभव करने के बाद अभी ये प्रण लेता है, अभी मैं ये मेरा लास्ट लाइफ है, लेकिन बाहर आने के बाद तुरंत क्या होता है, पूरा उल्टा हो जाता है। तो हमको वो प्रण को याद करना है कि मैंने एक्चुअली एक प्रण लिया था कि मैं आपका भक्त बनूंगा, मैं आपका सेवा करूंगा, मैं आपका भक्ति करूंगा। उस प्रण को याद करना है। उस प्रण को याद करते हुए हमको अपने आध्यात्मिक जीवन में धीरे धीरे करके आगे बढ़ना है, तरक्की करना है। और भौतिक जगत में भी हम प्रण लेते ही है, आप चाहे या ना चाहे, कभी आपको प्रण लेने के लिए फोर्स भी किया जाता है। बाद में आप पछताते भी हो, अरे भाई क्यों मैंने किया ये सब, है कि नहीं। उदाहरण में कोई शादी के बंधन में कोई बंधता है, थोड़े समय में 1-2 साल के अंदर उसको विचार में आ जाता है, अरे भाई मैंने क्या गलती किया। तब तो प्रण लिया, लेकिन प्रण लिया, वो प्रण की वजह से हम पूरा जीवन जो है निभाने के लिए तैयार रहते हैं। आपको वो एहसास थोड़ा सा हुआ, शायद मुझे नहीं लेना चाहिए प्रण, लेकिन प्रण ले लिया, इसलिए वो प्रण को आप चुकाते हैं, है कि नहीं, चाहे या ना चाहे। तो उसका मतलब भौतिक जीवन में भी प्रण लेना कुछ नई बात नहीं है। उसी तरह आध्यात्मिक जीवन में भी प्रण लेना बहुत जरूरी है, अगर हमको आध्यात्मिक जीवन में आगे बढ़ना है। इस प्रण जो हम लेना चाहते हैं, हमें हृदय में भारी नहीं लगना चाहिए। ये प्रण से हमको मन में एक नया अनुभव को जागृत करना चाहिए। We should feel happy about it. We should feel glad about it. So that is spiritual life. अगर आध्यात्मिक जीवन में अगर कोई प्रण लेता है, सुसुखम कर्तुम अव्ययम्, भले वो थोड़ा परेशानियों से भरा हो सकता है। जैसे आपने प्रण ले लिया, अभी मैं 8 माला 16 माला या 4 माला करूंगा, लेकिन आप कैसे करूंगा, वो एक अपने आप में एक स्ट्रगल हो सकता है। स्टूडेंट के लिए अलग स्ट्रगल हो सकता है, माताओं के लिए अलग स्ट्रगल हो सकता है, जो बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, कोई जॉब कर रहे हैं, उनके लिए अलग स्ट्रगल हो सकता है। इन स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ आनंद जो है, इस स्ट्रगल के बाद जो आनंद आता है, दैट इज द हाईएस्ट आनंद। सो इन दैट वे वी कंग्रेचुलेट यू ऑल। आप सबको हम बधाई देते हैं कि आपने ये आध्यात्मिक जीवन में नया मोड़ लेने के लिए आप सब ने एक विचार किया, और उस विचार को हकीकत में बदलने के लिए आप यहाँ पे उपस्थित हैं। तो आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद जी के कृपा के बिना ये संभव नहीं था, और इसी तरह से हम प्रार्थना करते हैं कि हम सब आध्यात्मिक जीवन में आगे बढ़े और श्रील प्रभुपाद जी के और कृष्ण के सबसे उत्तम भक्त बने, ये भावना लेकर के हम आगे बढ़ेंगे। ठीक है, हरे कृष्ण। किसी को कोई प्रश्न है तो पूछ सकते हैं, या जो कार्यक्रम के आगे बढ़ेंगे।
हरे कृष्णा। हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा।
हम सब लोग श्रील प्रभुपाद जी का आश्रय लेंगे। आश्रय के कुछ लेवल्स हैं, जो फोक वाइज है उनके लिए अलग लेवल्स हैं। 4 माले का आश्रय, 8 माले का, 12 माले का, 16 माले का। ये फैमिलीज है, उनके लिए स्टार्टिंग मतलब 1 माउंट से 1 माउंट, 4 माउंट, 8 माउंट, 12 माउंट। तो जो आश्रय के जो ओथ्स है वो आपके स्क्रीन पर डिस्प्ले हो जाएगा।